Southwest Airlines has been struggling to regain profitability since 2020. The airline is making some major changes, including new seats, assigned seating, and a network overhaul. Today, we'll discuss why Southwest is shifting their focus from stations like Atlanta to better markets like Nashville. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. If you've been following along with Southwest, you've probably seen this coming, as Southwest has really needed to make some major changes here if they want to regain profitability since the pandemic. Today, I'm going to read you an article by the Points Guy that goes into all the details you need to know about these shifts, and I'll also give you my analysis of why I think this is a really great decision for Southwest and will regain profitability hopefully in the near future. With that being said, this article is from September 25th, 2024, and I'm excited to dive into this. That said, here we go for the article, everybody. Southwest Airlines is making major changes to its network. The Dallas-based carrier announced Wednesday that it will be extending its schedule through June 4, 2025. As part of the extension, the carrier is cutting a slew of routes from one of its operating bases. It's also adding 6 new flights from Nashville International Airport. Southwest cuts 15 Atlanta markets. Starting with the cuts, Southwest will exit a whopping 15 markets from its base at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. A carrier spokesperson confirmed that the airline will permanently be exiting the following markets effective April 2025: Cleveland, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Myers, Florida, Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Jackson, Mississippi, Jacksonville, Florida, Louisville, Kentucky, Memphis, Miami, Milwaukee, Oklahoma City, Omaha, Philadelphia, Richmond, Virginia, and Sarasota, Florida. The airline also filed plans to temporarily suspend its Atlanta to Cancun, Mexico service, but that rule will return in the future, Southwest told TPG. Southwest says these routes are cut due to reduced booking patterns on many of these routes. We continue to optimize our network to meet customer demand, best utilize our fleet, and maximize revenue opportunities. Decisions like this are difficult for our company because it affects our people, but we have a history of more than 53 years of ensuring they will be taken care of, the airline said in a statement. In tandem with the cuts, the airline will reduce its presence at ATL from 18 to 11 gates next year. As such, the airline won't need as many employees at the Atlanta station, but all employees will be offered to transfer stations, the carrier confirmed to TPG. The abbreviation's a little tough there. Going forward, Southwest will focus on capturing origin demand and destination demand from Atlanta to popular Southwest airports such as ones in Baltimore, Dallas, Denver, and Houston. All these changes come as the airline struggles to return to profitability amid the repeated pressure from activist investor Elliott Investment Management. Southwest is expected to announce a detailed plan to cut the cost on its investor day on Thursday, which has came out. And if anybody's interested in seeing my analysis of that, feel free to comment below. It was really fascinating, and we'll refer to that just a little bit in this video. On the positive side, Southwest adds 6 new Nashville routes. It's not all cuts for Southwest, though. The airline is boosting its presence in Nashville with the addition of 6 new routes. Beginning on April 8, 2025, Southwest will start flying from Nashville to Albuquerque, New Mexico, Albany, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee, Providence, Rhode Island, and the one and only Tulsa, Oklahoma. Had to. Interestingly, the expansion marks the first time that Southwest will fly intra-Tennessee service. It's also the first time that Memphis has been served from Nashville on a major carrier since Delta Airlines pulled out of the market in 2014. According to Circulum data, that cut happened in tandem with Delta dehubbing Memphis, a base that was originally inherited as part of the Northwest Airlines merger in 2008. It'll be interesting to see how a 200-mile service works out for Southwest. After all, it's just a 3.5-hour drive between the two cities. 4 of the new routes are entirely new for Southwest. The airline used to fly between Nashville and Albuquerque in 1988 and Nashville to Providence in 2011. The announcement comes on the heels of the carrier's opening its newest flight crew base in Nashville on May 1st. In total, Southwest plans to fly an all-time high number of Sunday departures next April and May at 174 daily departures. We're also going to be seeing more red-eye flights from Southwest, so in addition to the new routes, Southwest announced they'll debut red-eye flights on 5 Hawaii routes beginning in April 2025. Adding red-eye service from Hawaii has been a long time coming for Southwest, and it appears to be that it's going to be a huge move for the airline. Earlier this year, the carrier announced its first red-eye routes in the continental United States, and then it expanded its portfolio to overnight flights, including 10 markets. Beginning on April 8, 2025, Southwest will add daily red-eye services to the following markets: Honolulu to Las Vegas, Honolulu to Phoenix, Kona to Hawaii to Las Vegas, Maui to Hawaii to Las Vegas, and Maui to Phoenix. Adding overnight flights from Hawaii will allow the airline to offer more connecting itineraries for flyers heading to points east of the West Coast. So there's a really great graph in the Southwest Investor Day. There's like 50 opportunities out of Vegas. It's pretty impressive. But anyway, that's the article from the Points Guide. They did a great job, so appreciate them writing that up. And now it's time for the analysis to dive into a more, hands-on approach to why this is important. So let's go ahead and get into the details, everybody. First and foremost, if you haven't been able to tell, the competition at Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, especially in the ULCC department over the last 10 years, has completely ramped up. So first and foremost, for anybody that doesn't know, Southwest Airlines inherited their Atlanta presence from AirTran Airways when they were a carrier back in 2014. So AirTran had a absolutely ginormous operation out of Atlanta. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at one time they had all the sea gates. So it was a very large presence for them, and Southwest inherited that, and obviously they have since started trimming it down. But in their defense, there wasn't any major low-cost presence at the time at ATL. Delta Airlines has been the main player at ATL, as we know. That doesn't mean much explanation, but obviously they've been a major factor, so that's where Southwest has had to lower their prices to be successful at airports like Atlanta. However, with that being said, we've had airlines come in and drop their fares even more than that. Airlines like Spirit and Frontier have completely started to dominate the network at Atlanta. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm sure both airlines have at least 20, if not 30 destinations each. I think Frontier has just a crazy number. So regardless of the case, when these airlines are offering $19 and $29 tickets on some of these routes that, they're competing on, Southwest that is, cities like Baltimore, Houston, Dallas, Denver, list goes on. How can you expect to be successful when there's a market for the ULCC folks, those leisure travelers that just need to get from A to B, and then those premium folks that are just going to fly Delta? It's not going to work. So with that being said, Southwest Airlines went behind the scenes and they thought, what will be the way to overcome this, and is there a way to get past it? So I don't know the exact details, but I'm assuming the reason that it took 10 years for this transition to happen was because there was probably some sort of union agreement between AirTran and Southwest when they merged, because it's been 10 years on the dot since they merged. In 2014 is when that happened. We are now in 2024. So that's just a little speculation on my part why this cut was so huge, 15 destinations. However, I could be wrong. There may not be an agreement to where that's the case. But anyway, regardless of the case, the airline has definitely came way down with regards to how many frequencies they've had out of the airport and now destinations, no doubt. And all the routes that I read off to you from Atlanta that they cut were all former AirTran Airways routes. Cities like Oklahoma City and Omaha were featured multiple times a day at one time for AirTran when they had a huge network there, but obviously Southwest already was dominant in markets like those. So the Atlanta service just really wasn't feasible anymore, especially when they got dominated on their point-to-point markets like Baltimore, Denver, Dallas, Houston by Frontier and Spirit, and then Delta for the premium folks. That being said, with that established, there's another major factor that goes into why what we're going to talk about next is important. The price of making this operation a reality at Atlanta is not particularly the most affordable. There are other airports within the same geography that makes more sense to make this operation a reality. Gate slots at Atlanta are premium. Everybody wants to fly through. You've seen airlines like Frontier and Spirit just do whatever they can to maximize their operations at these airports. I've been spotting at Atlanta multiple times, and I've seen Frontier planes sit on the ramp for over 30 minutes because Frontier cannot justify paying for another slot at Atlanta. It's just that tough with regards to the expenses. And then you can look at Delta, who's obviously got more revenue than what any other carrier does at this airport in terms of the hub operation. They can get whatever they need to. So that established, Southwest just cannot justify continuing to pay for these premium slots and these additional destinations when they have other operations that can do it better. That then takes us to what Southwest is moving toward, the Nashville expansion, which is super smart. So first and foremost for Nashville, this expansion just makes so much sense for a variety of reasons. So first and foremost, let's get into the competition. What competition's at Nashville? Allegiant? Southwest is going to dominate Allegiant on all these routes, and Allegiant's cutting 6 routes out of Nashville right now as we speak anyway. So it just makes so much sense for Southwest to move their operations from a oligopoly to a monopoly, because Nashville is a monopoly for Southwest. I think they have over 50% market share. It is absolutely crazy, whatever the case is. But Southwest has completely turned this airport around over the last 5 years, or really over the last 8, whatever you want to say. I think they've added over 3/4 of their destinations. They always had, some bigger operations like all the hub routes and then some Florida ones. But over the last several years, they've been starting to add places like Oklahoma City and, these places like Omaha and other flights like that. But now we're even getting down to Jackson, Mississippi, one of the smallest Southwest operations out there, now has service to Nashville. And you literally just saw it. It's a perfect example. AirTran was dominant at Jackson. They had that service to Atlanta, and they terminated that, and now they're going to flip it to Nashville because it's a monopoly, and it makes more sense. So it's just so smart to see them do this, and it's absolutely incredible that they have got to this point in time at this moment. So with this monopoly, I think it would just make sense for them to get all their employees along with all the ground service equipment and just drive it up to Nashville. I just thought that was kind of a funny joke because of how close they are. But yeah, they are really close. And you've seen Southwest, they haven't completely dominated with regards to the revenue they've made out of operations like St. Louis. But at the end of the day, they have made a monopoly there. So it makes sense for them to continue to operate out of St. Louis. So with that being said, in Investor Day, they did talk about some operations that they're going, or rather some restructure that they're going to have to try to return to profitability, and that includes realignment at places like Fort Lauderdale. We've already talked extensively about Atlanta, and Chicago O'Hare along with Oakland are all going to be reorganized because they are underperforming with regards to capacity. Fort Lauderdale is a large market, obviously, with so many travelers, but again, Spirit, Frontier, and other major carriers have completely dominated the market, even JetBlue as well. So there's just so much competition there. So that's the explanation for Fort Lauderdale. Atlanta, I've already explained. Chicago O'Hare is a pretty solid market for Southwest, but it's kind of tough to optimize those cities when, again, you have airlines like Frontier and American United. Just it's so tough to go against the oligopoly regardless in 2024. It's so tough. So Southwest has realigned those. And then in Oakland, I think they've really got dominated by Spirit there. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, it is going to be realigned. So that being said, the Nashville operation is just so smart. There's one telling statistic that I think will really make the point here, and it just speaks for itself. In May of 2024, the average load factor on Southwest Airlines out of Atlanta International Airport was, get ready for this, 80%, which sounds pretty good from the outside looking in, but we also have to keep in mind that they had 3,300 departures. So I would hope that it would be that good, and it kind of has to be when you have that many flights going out. That's also from peak time as well. I'm also going to give you an additional number here. I'm going to give you January of 2024 to give you some additional context to why this operation is especially bad in the winter months. 69% in 2024 January. Now I'm going to give you Nashville's 84% in May of 2024, which 4%, you're like, that doesn't mean much, does it? Well, let's look at January of 2024. We ready for this? 69%, which I'm not surprised. I honestly just pulled that out because 4% is a big number. It doesn't seem like much, but 4% really does go a long way with regards to revenue, finances, and other factors. So I know the January numbers were a little similar, but they were still optimizing the market at the time of these statistics. What I'm trying to get to is that 4% is a huge number in that regard. Also, keep in mind that this was on about slightly more departures, 6,300 departures. So it really goes to show that Southwest is maximizing the the Nashville operation to its fullest potential. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many segments there out of Atlanta that they just cannot afford to keep losing money on. I've looked at the numbers and they just cannot afford, Louisville, Cleveland. There's just so many cities there that have so many other Southwest flights that you can't continue to make these aircraft, optimize these aircraft. And the last major point that I want to make here for Nashville as well that's super important is the economic driver of the city. The airport's just completely exploded, and the whole city in general as well. Southwest Airlines also announced partnership with Iceland Airways, their first airline partnership in an extremely long time, and this is going to be huge to connect people on to, obviously, international destinations since Southwest can't do that. But I really want to look at a telling statistic here with regards to the progression here at Southwest. First off, they have over 50% market share from July 22 to June 23. They had nearly 11 million passengers. But since 2018, the airport has went from 15 million passengers in 2018. In 2024, the fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th, so the fiscal year 2024, nearly 24 million passengers. So the airport is literally not quite doubled, but it's literally grown by 40%. Isn't it obvious to continue to push people through Nashville? And it used to be just mainly a point-to-point operation for Southwest. It's a connecting operation now. I mean, there's so many. Obviously, you have all your point-to-point traffic, which is huge and what really makes the operation successful. But now you have all these cities to connect to. I think there's about 40 cities that they currently have out of this operation. But looking at it here, new routes will be starting to Albany, Albuquerque, Indianapolis, Jackson, Memphis, Providence, Punta Cana, San Jose del Cabo, Tulsa, Oklahoma, West Palm Beach, and Birmingham, Alabama. So it just goes to show what Southwest is doing here. And again, 4% there. And I don't have summer 23 numbers, so I can't quite refer to that. So I apologize. Anyway, though, I can only imagine, still doing over 4% better at Nashville during peak time. Plus, it's like, I'm just taking a guess. I don't know. I'm just from the outside looking in. I think it's like probably 2/3 of the cost to operate out of Nashville compared to Atlanta, maybe even half the cost. It's just so smart, and Southwest is really optimizing the network. And most of these flights as well are at good times during the day due to the slot demand at Atlanta for some of the more premium Southwest markets. They can't operate their other flights that they cut at good times, so there would be morning flights, for example. Now with this going on in Nashville, they have the flexibility to where they can bring in a flight from Tulsa in the middle of the day, which is when it's going to perform best. Unlike, Oklahoma City to Atlanta, for example, that had to be a morning flight half the time, and it wasn't going to perform near as well in the morning. And it's just so great, and it's going to be awesome to see Southwest repivot their Atlanta focus to bringing in people from connecting operations. I think it's really going to help, and yeah, this Nashville operation is just going to be the future for Southwest. It's such an exciting time, and I mean, you got to clap if you're Spirit, Frontier, or Delta right now at ATL. I mean, you're just gained so much more demand, and this opens the door, especially for Frontier, if they want to add some of these markets like Omaha or whatever it is that might perform well. Atlanta's still a very big city with plenty of economic demand, and obviously Delta's dominated the market, and they just really gained some huge revenue since they can charge more on some of those routes now that Southwest is pulling out of them. But yeah, I just think that this is super smart, operation, and I know this video's went a little longer than I anticipated, but I really want to give my thoughts and analysis as to why the Nashville movement is absolutely huge for Southwest. And there's other operations that they've done really well out recently that I definitely want to highlight. If all of you are interested in a video regarding the Investors Day, definitely let me know. There's some major observations there, from keeping the 737-700 for longer in retrofitting those, which I just cannot believe they're doing that, but that's what they're going to do. And, still relying on the MAX 7, even though the plane hasn't been certified yet, and trying to plan for that. There's just so many interesting pieces to the puzzle, along with what they're focusing on, along with the new products, and they will be bringing in assigned seating by the beginning of 2026. So many different factors that will start to go into place for Southwest that will be important moving forward. So if you all would like to see an analysis on that, let me know. But Southwest is going to make money at Nashville. It's obvious. 4% is a huge number, and it will definitely prove powerful, especially considering that it's half the operating cost as the Atlanta base. So one final question that I want to ask everybody, if you have any thoughts, is what's left of the AirTran merge outside the Baltimore operation? I mean, it's just crazy to see Southwest as, I don't want to say they've finished off what AirTran had, but there's not much left. So, what Atlanta had with all the AirTran flights is essentially gone. And again, Baltimore is pretty much it. So it's just crazy to see what they've done with that. But the Nashville operation is so much more logistically friendly anyway. And it's definitely really cool to see them and continue to increase capacity, frequencies, and new destinations, which is huge. I can't believe from my mid-sized airport now of only 20 destinations, or 25 now, luckily, I can fly out to Nashville on Southwest daily, every single day. You'd think that would be an Allegiant or Breeze service, which both of them have tried in the past. It's Southwest daily now, which is just crazy to think about, that there's enough demand. Very similar to the Austin movement as well. That's a whole video in and of itself. But Nashville is a huge operation, and honestly, it really slipped through my mind. But these recent announcements have really made my mind cater towards what that operation is for Southwest and how cool it is. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what all of you think. I'm not an industry professional, so this is just my analysis. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to let me know. I'm excited to make more videos, and if you do want to follow up with the Investor Day, let me know. And I'm really excited for the future of Southwest, what's going on in the future, and what's to come here out of this operation. That being said, that'll do it for today's video, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank each and one of you for watching. My name is Redriveraviation. Take it easy, everybody. Stay safe. Just process. Do love and love you do. My name is Redriveraviation. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon as Redriveraviation is signing off.